to hear my gut and trust it, right? And why I want to talk about knowing today is because I think so many of you are here because you have a knowing. You have this knowing inside that you have something where you're like, oh, maybe you're in a job that you love too, but you're like, I'm not quite fulfilled. There's more in me that I need to give or to serve or to offer the world. And I believe when we learn to hear ourselves and trust ourselves, it's the one thing that changes everything in our lives. And so, I thought since the time I was a little girl, I'd watch Oprah on TV, and I thought I want to share other people's stories with the world. I always thought I would grow up one day and have a talk show and interview other people and share their stories. So that's what I did. I was laser focused on that. After school, that's where I started working in, and I thought I was in my dream job. I was anchoring the news and sharing other people's stories, and I got a skin condition called rosacea, which for me, it gets bright red. I get bumps all over my face. There's no cure for it. It comes all on my forehead, and if you imagine what sandpaper feels like, that's what my face will feel like on a lot of days. And so I'd be anchoring the news live, and I would hear in my earpiece from my producer, there's something on your face. You need to wipe it off. You need to wipe it off. And I'd be live, and I'd be like, and I knew there was nothing I could wipe off. I knew it was the makeup breaking up. And so I was in a season of what I thought was setback in my life, right? I started dealing with so much self-doubt. I would be anchoring the news live, and you guys know our inner critic in our head, right? I'd be having thoughts like, our viewers changing the channel right now. Am I going to get fired? Are ratings going down? Because all I could hear over and over day after day was like, Jamie, you've got to fix this. Like there's something on your face. And so I was in this season of setback. And what I soon realized and believe to this day, I think Joel Osteen coined this phrase, that so often in life, our setbacks are actually our setups for what we're called to do next, right? We heard Tony and Dean talk a lot about making our mess our message. And this season, I started trying every makeup on the market, from the most expensive in the department stores to the most inexpensive to the pro line. Nothing would work. Nothing would work. And two things happened. I had this big epiphany, like, wait, my whole life I've seen all these makeup lines, but I've never seen a person that looks real, that has like a real skin challenge. I always see kind of the photoshopped images. And then I got this gut feeling, you guys. I got this gut feeling. I'll never forget it. That was like, well, if you can figure out how to create something that works for you, it's probably going to help a whole lot of other people, right? So I had that feeling. And I just want to take a moment, and wherever you're at right now, I just want you to think about the moments in your life where you have a gut feeling, but then your mind goes to talk yourself out of it, right? So I had this feeling, well, what if you can create something that, but then my mind says, oh, but you're not qualified. You got no money, you have no connections, and no one in the beauty industry, like all those things, right? So I struggled for a while, and I just couldn't shake that feeling. I just couldn't shake that knowing. And when I look back at my life, and when I think we look at all of our lives, I believe our greatest decisions, our greatest moments in our life come down to the moments we make that decision to trust ourselves. Even when it doesn't make sense in our head sometimes, right? And I made the decision to trust that feeling. I quit my job, had almost no money. My husband and I rewrote this business plan on our honeymoon flight and got back, quit our jobs, dove all in. I created this company called It Cosmetics, and I just knew, I'm not going to say I thought, I knew it was needed. I knew it mattered. I knew that if people could get it in their hands, it'd be huge. Like it would change their lives. Here's what's hard. Sometimes we know, but then no one else knows, right? Sometimes we know, but then all we hear is no from everybody. And I want to share this because so often when we start things in life, we give up because we think our gut was wrong, or we give up after 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 no's, right? So I did a lot of things wrong building this company, but one of the things I did right was I would literally get still and I would hear that knowing. And I want to share this with you right now because I know so many of you, just from reading in the chat, reading so many of your stories, you're in a spot right now where you have a knowing. You have a knowing, whether it's that you have more to give or serve or create or offer the world. And so I just want to share this because we poured our savings into this product that worked for me, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to work for everyone else. If I had hours to talk, I would share so many stories, you guys, of the early years, because I went for 3 years without being able to afford to pay myself. I didn't know how this business was going to make it. And I went through this journey where all of the experts, the beauty retailers, told me no. So Sephora, Ulta, QVC, which is a live television shopping channel, all of them said no. They all said, we don't think that anyone will buy makeup from, models that have real skin challenges. Because I wanted to use real people as models, right? It had never been done before. I wanted to use every age, shape, size, skin tone, skin challenge. I wanted to call them beautiful, and I wanted to mean it, right? It was like, I knew I wanted to create a product and give it to the world, but that deeper why, right? The deeper why that Dean and Tony and everyone has spoken about, Trent Shelton was talking about this, the deeper why for me was like, oh, my whole life as a little girl, I saw these commercials and I always aspired to look like that, but they always kind of made me feel like I wasn't enough. So what if I create a company that has great products, but what if I shift the definition of beauty in the industry to like one that's inclusive, to one that says every person's beautiful, to one that, maybe little kids see that before they're about to grow up and start doubting themselves too. It was this giant, deep why. And I believed in it. But then I would go to meetings in Sephora and I would leave in tears because they said, we'll never carry your product. It's not the right fit for us or our customers. I would call QVC over and over and over for years. I got their head guy who built the multi-billion-dollar QVC industry. He's a legend, the beauty industry at QVC. I got him on the phone one day, and I thought it was going to be life-changing that he took my call. His name's Alan Burke, and he says to me, we've reviewed your products. This was after 2 years of sending them over and over. We've reviewed your products with all the buyers. It's unanimous. You're not the right fit for QVC or for our customers. And I remember that night, we were down to under $1,000 in our bank account. I didn't know how we were going to survive. I remember that night literally crying myself to sleep under the covers and waking up the next morning hoping it was a dream. And it wasn't. And it was just like day after day. But every time when the world told me it wasn't going to work, when the experts were saying no, right? We were only doing 2 to 3 orders a day on our website. So we were getting almost no traction for a few years. But when I would get still, I couldn't shake this feeling in my gut that I was supposed to be doing this, right? It didn't make sense in my head, but I just had that feeling and I made the decision to trust it, and I kept going and kept going and kept going, right? We got a very big meeting, you guys. One of the most defining moments in my life, I just want to share with you in case someone needs to hear this today. But we got a really big meeting with a potential investor, really famous investor, and I was like, oh my gosh, they loved our product, right? Because it was good. They loved our product. And I'm like, if they invest in our company, A, I'm not going to go bankrupt, and B, maybe they can use their leverage, because they're super well known, to get us into all these stores that keep telling me no. So we did meeting after meeting after meeting, and got down to the final meeting, and I thought this was going to be life-changing. And I flew up, my husband and I flew up, we were in person, and the head guy was like, we just want to say, congratulations, thank you for sharing your whole product pipeline with us, all the stuff, we really believe in your product, but it's a no, we're going to pass on investing in IT Cosmetics. And when I said, okay, can you tell me why? Because usually feedback's a gift. And you guys, he was 3 feet from me in person. And I'll never forget this. He says, you want me to be really honest with you? I was like, yes, please. Then he says to me, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. And I remember when he said this, and I remember a couple things, like a lifetime of body doubt and self-doubt, like fled in my body. I almost felt like I was staring my own fear straight in the eye when he said that to me. I never actually felt anger toward him. I mean, I went out in my car and bawled my eyes out. I never felt anger toward him. 2 things. The moment he said that, right? I'll never forget this moment. I had this whisper, it was like this feeling in my gut that said, he's wrong. He's wrong. Like I felt it. I felt it, you guys. I felt it. And today I want to talk about knowing, which is why I'm sharing this story. I felt it. But I didn't have any proof. I wasn't selling much, all those things. But I remember that feeling. And over the next several years, okay, It would be another 6 years until I heard from that guy again, by the way. But over the next several years, what happens when someone rejects us or says, literally looks us in the eye? We've all had this, right? How many of you guys have had somebody basically just tell you you're not enough, right? Yeah, and sometimes it's an investor, and sometimes it's our family, sometimes it's our partner, sometimes it's the people we love most, right? As Trent and Dean and Tony were saying the other day, like sometimes God gives you the vision and no one else has it, right? Right? But so many times over 6 years, when his words came back in my head, I literally would have to turn the volume down on them. And I would do something very intentionally. I would turn the volume up on that memory I had of that knowing in my gut, right? I would lean into that knowing, and I'd keep going, and I'd keep going. And I'm going to cut a whole bunch of years of stories because we just have a few minutes. But I want to share one important moment, which was that we finally got a big chance, a big yes, to get one shot on QVC. Okay, so we were only doing 2 to 3 orders a day. I didn't know how we were going to stay in business. We get one big shot on QVC. What it meant was I got to go live for 10 minutes and either hit their big sales goal, right? Dean talks about sales. By the way, how beautiful, can I just say how beautiful was, I was just processing that he's sharing with all of us how to sell, which I wish I had learned so much sooner, you guys. And then he's fully transparent and then taking us through selling the project next. And I just thought that the transparency was beautiful. So anyways, just to honor that for a second, because I love seeing things in real time, because then I learn how to apply them to my life. So we get one big shot on QVC, and I learn, QVC means we have 10 minutes, and I'm only selling like 2 to 3 orders a day on our website. I don't know how, at any moment we can go bankrupt, and this is years in. We get one shot, and I learned that to hit their sales goal in that 10-minute window, I'd have to sell over 6,000 units of our concealer in 10 minutes or not come back. And it was a consignment deal. We had to manufacture all the product. We had to take a loan out to do it. Everything was on the line in this 10-minute window, this one chance, this one shot. And, in planning for this segment, I flew out to QVC a week early. I knew everything was on the line. I knew if it didn't go well, right? If it didn't go well, we'd have to take everything back and we would be going out of business. And so everything was on the line. And here's the thing about our knowing, right? Sometimes we have a knowing, and again, no one else knows it, right? And we have to decide in life which we listen to. And how many people do you know in your life, maybe their friends or their family, that have a knowing, they have a calling on their heart, and maybe it's to create, maybe it's to teach dance, maybe it's whatever it might be, right? They have a calling, whatever it is, but they let other people talk them out of it. They let their own fear talk them out of it and keep them stuck, right? But when we have a calling on our heart, if we don't listen to it, I believe we then live our entire lives never becoming the person we're born to be. Right? My good friend, Sarah Jakes Roberts, I just interviewed her on my Instagram live, and she said that when we have a calling on our heart and we stay stuck and we don't go after it, she says our fear lies to us and says we're staying safe. If we try to step out in faith, we're worried we don't have the courage that it takes, so we stay stuck. And she said we spend our entire life in anguish, right? And longing because we know that more has been assigned to our name. How many people do you know in your life right now? And I've been in this position, you guys, sometimes where I just have to remember that feeling that more has been assigned to my name, and I just have to go for it, right? And QVC was one of those moments in my life because we had third-party consultants that are awesome. They help a lot of people sell their products. They were great. But they told me to just use the same type of model with perfect skin. They said, if you're going to have a shot at success, and almost nobody makes it on QVC. It's so hard, you guys. They said, if you're going to have a shot at making it, here's what you need to do. Use all these models with perfect skin. And I'm like, okay, but you can't fake authenticity. And my authentic why is to show my own rosacea in case someone watching at home can connect and sees how the product works. I want to put, women in their 70s, 80s, all ages, all skin problems. And they were mortified at this idea. And they wanted me to win, but they were seeing my shot at winning through the lens of their own fear and their own experience, right? So I flew out a week early, sat in anguish in the QVC parking lot in a rental car all alone, staring at the front door, knowing the next time I walked in that building, my whole life would change, one way or the other. I couldn't try it both ways, and I had one shot. Do I go with what they're telling me to do when my gut, my intuition, my knowing is telling me something totally different? But I have no proof it's going to work. In fact, I have 3 years of it not working, but I can't shake it. So I walked in the building and I was shaking like a leaf, and the cameras went on. I knew I was live to 100 million homes. I had a 10-minute clock, and I trusted myself. And I remember sorry, I'm getting emotional, but I remember the moment, because I just think so many of us don't do this in life. I remember the moment my bare face rosacea came up on national television, right? And I was raised a perfectionist, you guys. I would never think of leaving the house without makeup, and I was like, boom, bare face rosacea. And I walked over to real women every age, every skin tone, every skin challenge, and called them beautiful and meant it. And I remember there was about a minute left in the presentation. And I didn't know how it was going, but I knew they hadn't cut us yet, because they can cut you live if you're not doing well. There was about a minute left, and the host says, the deep shade's almost gone, the tan shade's sold out. And I was like, oh, and I remember at the 10-minute mark, this huge sold out sign came up across the screen. I started crying on national TV. They cut, and they went to like Vitamix or Dyson vacuum or Apple iPhone or something. And my husband came running through the studio, and I'm like crying, and I'm like, real women have spoken. And he's like, we're not going bankrupt. And that one airing turned into 5 more that year, 101 the next year. We ended up building the largest beauty brand in QVC's history. It is right now, at this moment, to this day. I did over 1,000 live shows myself. All the retail stores that said no to us eventually said yes, right? And had I listened to all those stores who said to change what I was doing, to go against my knowing, to do what's working for everyone else, we would have never grown a successful brand, right? And by the time they let us in, we started growing and growing and growing and growing. The head guy at QVC who told me, who built the multi-billion-dollar industry, who told me you're not the right fit for us or for our customers, he ended up retiring. He became one of my greatest mentors in my life. He is to this day. We hired him in a paid position on our advisory board at cosmetics after he retired. So the guy who rejected me, and I was crying myself to sleep for days, the guy who rejected me was now working for me, right? In life, we never know who the person who calls us rejected one day is going to call us boss, right? And the way we have these experiences is when we stay true to our knowing. When we stay true to our knowing. And I'm going to cut a lot of stuff out of here, but what I want to say is we eventually, by listening to what we knew, by staying authentic, by not getting distracted by what everyone else was doing, we eventually created something so unique that L'Oreal bought it. They have 40 companies, right? But what we were doing, because it was authentic, because we didn't get distracted by what everyone else was doing, and we stuck true to that, we built a company that was valuable. So they bought it, their largest U.S. acquisition to date, and made me their first female CEO in their 100-plus year history, which was an amazing experience. And the first 2 years that I was there, we doubled the size of the company post-acquisition. And then I want to share one moment with you that I've never shared before. I've never shared it anytime I've given a talk, but it's just on my heart today to share. I had a moment where I was sitting in my corner office, right? And y'all know I worked at Denny's. I've pushed grocery carts in the Safeway parking lot. I appreciate hard work. And I had a moment where I was sitting in my corner office in this brand new 60,000 square foot office, right? And for years we ran our company in our living room. I was sitting in my corner office at Cosmetics overlooking the entire Manhattan skyline. My office had a bathroom and a shower, and it was bigger than any apartment I've ever, and I'm sitting there, and it's beautiful, and the art, and everything. And I had this moment, you guys, that I want to share with you, in case one of you is having this moment today. I had this moment where I was like, I'm in a job, and I'm looking at all these things around me that are what the world tells me significance looks like. I'm in this spot with what the world tells me is supposed to make me happy. It's supposed to be what success looks like. And I love my team, like my family, right? But in that moment, in that corner office, I had this feeling, this knowing. I just want to share because I know so many of you are having it right now in your life. I had this feeling, this knowing that like I'm supposed to serve in a whole different way. Like I'm not supposed to sit around with all this fancy stuff that is really cool and I'm grateful for it, but it doesn't fill my soul. Like I had this feeling like I'm supposed to share everything I've ever gone through to help save someone else. Nights of crying themselves to sleep, to help save someone else on their own journey of self-doubt, how to overcome it quicker, right? And I just knew it. And it made no sense in my head or to anyone around me. But I left this billion-dollar company I built when everything around me could have just set me up to have this really fancy life. And I sat there and wore my sweats and binge ate Lucky Charms and poured everything I knew into, as Dean would call it, the self-education industry, the knowledge broker industry. I wrote my first book ever called Believe It. And it just launched a few weeks ago. And let me tell you guys, like, yes, it was really fun when it hit the New York Times bestseller list. But here's what I want to share with you today. The part that fills my soul is when, oh, I see you guys holding up Believe It. When I read things on Instagram or DMs or we do lives where one of you says like, I started reading the book rooting for you, but I ended the book rooting for myself. So many of you have written me messages saying like, Jamie, this week I decided to trust myself and it worked. Those are the moments that fill my soul. So in closing, because I'm over time by 3 minutes, in closing, I want to share something that's just on my heart. I pray before I speak every single time, and I just pray that I share something that someone needs to hear on that day. And you know, with my book, I'm donating 100% of the proceeds of it, right? This event Dean mentioned, all of us are here speaking for free. Like I listen to my gut and I go where I feel called to serve. And my prayer for every one of you guys today is that you hear what you know, K-N-O-W, over all the ways you tell yourself no, N-O, right? My journey is a journey of literally thousands of people over years and years and years telling me no. And sometimes we're the ones telling ourselves no. But I believe your knowing is always more powerful than their knowing. You know what I mean? And my prayer for you today is that you listen to that and listen to your knowing. And it's so easy to talk ourselves out of the person that we're born to be because it feels safer that way, right? But like my friend Sarah said on my Instagram Live, she said, you always live with that longing because you know more has been assigned to your name. And my final thing I want to share, 30 seconds, is that, you know, I talk a lot about a toolbox I built of things, right? Because Dean mentioned the other day, the imposter syndrome never goes away. It's always there. I've had the blessing of meeting some of my greatest mentors in my whole life I could have never imagined meeting. And they all still deal with it, which makes me feel better. We all deal with that imposter syndrome. And just final words I want to share with you. No matter what faith or no faith you have, I think these words apply. Every time I start to doubt myself or feel unqualified or feel like I have this calling on my heart, like I'm supposed to do it, but I feel unqualified, there's famous words I always think and remind myself of, and just in case you need to hear this today. And the words say, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And to me, that means if you have something on your heart, a purpose, a calling that you can't shake, to me, it means you already have everything you need inside of you right now to accomplish your dream. And I think one of our greatest journeys in this lifetime is learning to believe it for ourselves. And I believe in you. And I'm just so grateful and so honored to be here and to support Dean and Tony and Jenna, but also just to share this space with your precious time. So I just want to say thank you. I love you. And I'm excited for all of you, especially the Project Next and everything next going on in your life. So thank you for having me today.
Jamie.
Dean.
Give it up for Jamie Kern Lima.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Before you go, yeah, the music, I guess I'm supposed to feel the music for a second, but every time, I've heard this story before. But every time you tell the story, can you feel this amazing woman's heart and soul? Can you put it in the chat? And, But every time I hear the story of the guy saying, you're not the right shape, you don't have the right fit, like, tell me you don't want to kick the guy's ass. I'm just telling you, like, I'd love to have a different emotion. I kick his butt. I'm not going to swear anymore today. But don't you feel that way when she shared it? But the other thing, too, which I think is so empowering, is, and this is the notes I had. I took a whole bunch of notes, but the ones that are most important is you have so many no's when you try something more in life, right? We all get no's. We all have self-doubt. But how many of us let that just cumulative no be the one that stops us, and we don't know if the next no is actually a yes that allows you to build it cosmetic.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like I know that sounds, you probably heard it before. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but what if God, the universe, whatever you believe in, is what if we are all preset with a certain amount of no's or failures or people that let you down, and you don't know if it's 6 of them or 60, and we don't know if it's the 7th one that allows us to break free and be the person we were meant to be the woman we were born to be, right? Or the man we were born to be. Or maybe, unfortunately, it's not fair. Maybe it's a previous life. I don't know. Maybe it's 60 times. But at 61, you get to be the woman or the man you were meant to be. And I hear your story, and you had every excuse to quit. You really did. Every excuse, and no one would have blamed you. You could have went home and you could have had a story to this day. You could have said, I tried, we ran out of money. I finally went to a place I thought it was going to happen. And the guy looked at me and said, I'm the wrong shape. I'm the wrong size. I'm the wrong everything. I knew it wasn't my time. And you still could be telling that story, not the one that inspires so many. So thank you for being here.
Well,
Seriously.
thank you. You know, I'm just thinking, listening to you live too, is when we get people that reject us over and over, or we don't see success around us, our imposter syndrome grows.
Oh, always.
Like
we talk about that all the time.
We talk about it all the time, and I'm just thinking. Sorry, I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot, but you know how you and I are going to do we're doing an imposter syndrome training together.
Yes, we're doing an imposter syndrome live training because it's the #1 thing that we find holding, and we want it to come from 2 perspectives, men and women. Who have broken through them. Yeah, I would love if you're cool with it for everyone who's part of your. I know I hear all these cool classes that Tony and you and Jen are doing. Can we give everyone the imposter syndrome training as a bonus? Yes.
To invite everyone here who's part of this, I think that would be amazing.
Okay. Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes. So, if you get involved with Project Next.
Yes. Yes.
Jamie and I are doing a live training on imposter syndrome. We've just had so many people ask this, and we just decided to do it. We're doing it in probably a month from now. So we're doing a live training. We're going to go deep on it from 2 different perspectives. If you get enrolled in Project Next, we're going to include that as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And thank you for, I'm going to give you one more hug. Thank you for you and Tony and your whole teams, everyone changing lives. And, you know, as you shared, this impacted me 20 years ago as a waitressing at Denny's. And I'm just so grateful and honored to be part of this and to serve however I can. So thank you for having me.
Let's give it up for Jamie Kern Lima.
Thank you.